So we're going to start activity 4.1b, engineering graphics, and it's the next step in the process that we started with the puzzle part combinations. So we came up with 29 different possible pieces that could be part of your cube, but I think the likelihood of being able to select 5 of those and having them fit together and make a perfect cube is probably not very realistic. So in this activity then, the goal is to come up with 2 designs of what your puzzle cube could look like, and I have a template that you can use to help you in that process. So this is what the template looks like. It breaks up the cube into layers, and the idea behind that is that we can really focus on making the cube interlocking, or the pieces within the cube interlocking, by having the pieces go between layers. So this is the top third of the cube, the middle third, and the bottom third, and they've been broken off. Okay, so with this template then, we'll come up with 2 designs for what this cube could possibly look like, keeping in mind that we do need to meet the requirements that we looked at in our design brief, right? So we have 5 parts that make up the design. Each of those parts is unique. Those puzzle parts need to have between 4 and 6 cubes, and they need to come together to make our 2¼ inch puzzle cube project. So let's kind of work through one design, how I would tackle doing this, so that you have an example to look at. So I'm going to use the template that I have here, and I'm going to work through how I would do this process, or how I would tackle this design. So I'm going to use a number system to make sure that I'm keeping track of the number of cubes that I'm designing, and I'm going to use colors to help me organize this. So I'm going to start with this bottom layer here, and let's say that my first piece, which I'll label number 1, takes up these 4 squares here, 3 squares, this square here, and then above that, here and here. So this square, or this cube, sits on top of the cube that's on the bottom layer, and then this one sits on top of that, right? Then I'm going to use colors to identify this square, and I'm going to color this in fairly quickly. You guys can do a little bit better job, or spend a little bit more time on getting the colors onto your drawing. Now I'm going to work on the second piece. Let's say that my second piece is on this bottom layer here, and then I have another cube here. Again, this cube sits directly on top of this cube here. I'm going to switch colors. So this will be my red piece. Onto my third piece. Third piece is going to sit on top of the bottom layer, so this is piece number 3. And maybe I'll have one cube sitting on top here. So use orange for this color. Go to cube, or piece number 4. 4. Switch colors again. Which leaves 4 cubes then for my last piece, piece number 5. The last color for this one. So I'm pretty happy with kind of how the template worked out. I can check to make sure, okay, these all unique pieces, they look like they're all unique. You know, there's no shape that's been repeated by turning around. Are there an appropriate number of cubes within each part? This looks good. Okay. So this design works. I would move on then to the second design and come up with a second design for my puzzle cube piece. Once I finish that and I have each of the 2 designs completed, the next step then is to pick between the 2 designs and decide which of these 2 designs meets the design criteria better within the design brief. Select the design that you're going to use, and then for each of the 5 parts that make up that design, I want you to create a multi-view drawing and an isometric view of that, or of each of those 5 pieces. Okay, so identify what would be the best or appropriate front view for that object. We start by drawing the front view, the top view above that, the right view to the right, and then using our isometric paper, draw what that piece looks like isometrically. Keep in mind that this layout and this isometric may not be exactly the same way that it fits in your cube, but we're trying to identify the best front view for that object. Okay? So your 2 designs go into the notebook. Between the 2 designs, you select the one that you want to work with, and then for each of those 5 pieces, you'll do a multi-view drawing and an isometric view. When you finish that, we're going to add those into the notebook and submit that on the LMS.